It is now in order to consider amendment number 58, printed in House Report 113-170. For what purpose does the gentleman from Alabama seek recognition?
I have amended that to this.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 58, printed in House Report number 113-170, offered by Mr. Rogers of Alabama.
Pursuant to House Resolution 312, the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Rogers, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In light of the late hour, I'm going to synopsize my more full statement, if that's okay with everybody. Recently, the House passed the FY14 NDAA, and in that document, we included a provision that before the $75 million that the White House has requested for implementation of the New START Treaty, they have to provide to the Congress the 1042 report, which was due 18 months ago by law, that outlines how they're going to spend the money. The White House has refused to submit that report to date. We put in the authorization language saying, give us the report and we'll give you the money. I went to Chairman Young and asked him to include this in his appropriations bill. He said he would welcome the amendment. I hope that's still the case tonight. I urge my colleagues to support my amendment.
Does the gentleman reserve?
Yes, I reserve.
The gentleman from Alabama reserves. What purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise?
I rise to claim time in opposition to the gentleman's amendment.
The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 5 minutes in opposition.
I rise to claim time in opposition to the amendment and would state my opposition to it. We have a handful of amendments that have been made in order on the bill regarding our nation's nuclear weapons stockpile. This is one that urges maintaining the status quo, and others have pushed for a reduction in the number of nuclear weapons. I firmly believe that the further reduction in the number of nuclear weapons in our inventory will not negatively impact our deterrence goal. Even under the recently ratified New START Treaty, both the United States and Russia will have more than 1,500 deployed warheads each. Additionally, the treaty contains no limits on non-strategic nuclear weapons or non-deployed nuclear warheads. With regards to the amendment, I don't think it's responsible to prohibit the United States from carrying out the reductions prescribed by the New START Treaty. That bilateral strategic arms reduction treaty was passed by a wide margin in the United States Senate according to the Constitution, and it remains in force. I think it is very bad policy to go back on an international treaty obligation that would in fact reduce the number of nuclear weapons in this world. And would, again, reference back a quote that I read in my opening statement. Because again, the gentleman is essentially saying, let us maintain the status quo. Over the last 12 years, it has gotten us a more expensive military that has grown more expensive, but has not gotten any larger. The reality that we face today gives us very difficult choices that we are going to have to make looking forward. Our military is at a familiar crossroads, one they have been at before at the end of combat operations. The additions and subtractions to funding that we make today must be carried out with an eye to the future. The status quo will no longer get the job done, one, as far as our national security, the security of this world, or a responsible budget that does truly, looking forward, provide us with an affordable defense. And for those reasons, do object to the gentleman's amendment and oppose it, and I would reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Indiana reserves. Gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the gentleman's observations, and while I may not agree with the New START Treaty, I am in no way trying to prohibit it being implemented. It is the law of the land. However, we do have a constitutional obligation in this House to be responsible with taxpayers' dollars. And under the new treaty law that was signed by the President, he had 90 days to provide the Congress a report on how he was going to spend the money to implement it. That's all we're saying in this amendment, is when he gives us the report by law that was due 18 months ago, we'll give him the money, but not until then. And with that, I yield back.
The gentleman from Alabama yields back. The gentleman from
I yield
Indiana
back my
recognized.
time.
Gentleman yields back. This question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Alabama. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.